You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, like some bottles, impress them girls. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And this evening, I have some more main course for you, some main course. And I'm talking about the New Orleans Saints loss to the Buffalo Bills, 31-19, dropping them to 0-4. I mean, you're going off of the score that we have here, 31-19. I mean, obviously, if you've been a follower, a watcher of the podcast, my prediction was for the Bills to win this game, and I thought it was going to be a lot worse and a lot less enjoyable to watch than it was. But so that the Saints were able to keep it even close and look like they maybe even had an opportunity to take the lead at times in this game was surprising. I don't know if that's really because of improvements from the Saints and Kellen Moore, or it was just a bad day, a bad game for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. But I will say this game had a lot of feel of similar to like the first 2 weeks of this game, where it was close. Looked like maybe there's a chance to take the lead here. The defense giving them opportunities to take the lead and just keeping it close, But man, the Saints just all year are just always fighting and clawing and trying to manifest a comeback in these games. Like they've only had the lead in games for like 4 minutes, something like that, 3.5, 4 minutes, like all year. So they had the lead early on in the game against the week one against the Arizona Cardinals. They had the lead like 7-3, but obviously it only lasted for like 4 minutes before they haven't had the lead in a game all year since then. So this constant just fighting and having to scratch and claw to get back in these games, it's frustrating to watch, and it's just really annoying. But I know the last two games of this season, the Seahawks game, and then of course this Buffalo Bills game, I didn't really think the Saints really had a chance of winning these games, winning either game, and even in the Buffalo Bills game when they had it close, or maybe actually looked looked like they might have taken the lead with the Brandon Cooks touchdown. I still didn't think like, oh, the Saints defense is going to be able to tighten up and keep the Buffalo Bills from getting the lead back, because I knew even if they took the lead there, they were going to probably, depending on where they got the ball at, they're just going to go march down the field, boom, 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 and take the lead right back. But it would have been fun, at least. It would have been fun to get Buffalo Bills fans feeling a little bit uncomfortable. But anyways, let's get into this game a little bit and break down some stats, and then we'll get into my MVPs, hot takes, and there's some positive news, maybe some bad news on the injury report, but there's also some positive news to report on. So we'll get into all that. So let's get into it. So can I get a menu? And so Spencer Rattler having a very Spencer Rattler-ish game, not really surprised at all, but it's one of those classic games where he has like 30 attempts and is barely able to have like 5-yard average, and can't even get like 250 yard passing in a game. And I condone them a little bit. I have to applaud them a little bit because he didn't throw it 30, 40 times in this game. But that didn't keep it didn't keep his stats like from going up or looking any better. They're basically exactly the same. They just didn't throw it as many times. So he was 18 of 27 for 126 yards. Like that's pathetic, man, honestly. Which is like not even, I'm saying a 5 yard per average. It was 4.7. And he had a touchdown. Luckily, he didn't have an interception, no turnovers. And he fumbled at the end of the game, got strip sacked, but was Eric McCoy was able to recover it. But here's something that's kind of creeping back in. He did real well in like the first two games of the season. Was where he was kind of cutting down his sacks. Only getting sacked like one time a game, but he was sacked three times in this game for 17-yard loss, and I'm really surprised by this. Sometimes you can see a quarterback have like a great game, and their QBR will still be like 50 or under. But he had what I guess this I don't know if uh, rushing stats play into your QBR because I mean passing wise, I guess maybe it's because he didn't turn it over. Uh, I still didn't think Spencer Rattler was good on Sunday. Like the best thing he did was use his legs and run. But he actually had a 73 QBR, that's 73 out of 100. So that's pretty good actually. And then the uh, the rating, QB quarterback rating, was 89.4. So even with such lackluster stats, still has good ratings. And I don't know. Hopefully, he's not turning back into a sack merchant because it kind of felt like that. But he's had kind of a tough go of it these last 2 weeks at the end of the game, where it's like the opposing defense is trying to shut out the game. So, they know he's going to throw past the ball. So they just are firing off the edges with no concern for the run game at all. So it was just disappointing to see the sacks kind of creep back up, but kind of understand why because he's having to throw and constantly having to come back in these games. And then even Chris Olave got into this game. This is probably there were quite a few mistakes and bad decisions in this game and missed opportunities in this game. But Chris Olave had was 0 for 1 on his pass attempts. They were down in the red zone, and he attempted to throw I guess it's a Philly special. So it was thrown to him, or it was. Uh, like it was I think it was passed to Rashid Shaheed like on an end around, and then he flipped it to Chris Olave, and then Chris Olave attempted to throw it to Spencer Rattler, and he just put way too much air under it and lobbed it to Spencer Rattler, and it just gave too much time for the safety to come over and intercept it. It just hung up in the air way too long to to throw to attempt to pass like that. Yeah, Cole Bishop showed a little bit of range and came over and picked it off, and just man, that's one of them things where you're just like, man. And that was at the end of the half. Like they could have just, if it would have been me with how hot Kendra Miller was looking, and it looked like the Saints at times had the Bills defense kind of on their heels a little bit in the run game. I mean, I would have just ran it two times there and took the field goal and tried to go into halftime down by one, uh, hoping that Josh Allen didn't get his team down in field goal range. But still, that would have been better than this absolutely just throwing points away, literally throwing points away by giving Chris Olave an attempt to do that. So they just got way too cute there, and it would have been kind of exciting. It would have been real exciting to have gone into halftime just down. What would that have been? It'd have been what 14-13. It would have been kind of exciting going down just 1 point against arguably one of the best teams in the league, a Super Bowl favorite. But we didn't get that. Like Kellen Moore, I thought Kellen Moore looked better on the sideline. Looked like he had more life and juice and energy than he did. He looked like he was like dead, like a deer in the headlights in the game against the Seahawks. So I like that, but I don't want him to start filling himself too much to where he's doing trick plays at inopportune times, which that very much was. But anyway, so let's get to the rushing game, which the Saints were great. This kills you. The Saints have been way better than they were last year running the ball already. Can see that through 4 games. And man, it's just really disappointing. The Saints have had a couple of these games where they rush for like 150 yards and still lose like that. You gotta, it's a hard thing really to rush for 150 plus and like more than 5 yard average on the ground and still lose. Like that's harder than you think. But yeah, the Saints were running all over the Buffalo Bills. They had 34 carries for 190, 189 yards, so almost 2 yards with a 5.6 average and 1 touchdown, which they probably should have been, like at the end of half. I'd have Kendra Miller was feeling hot at the end of the half. Like just give it to him twice there, and if you don't get it, kick the field goal. So maybe another touchdown maybe would have led to a win there. Would have helped a lot, but yeah, it's nice seeing them being able to run the ball, and they're able to run the ball and they're able to stop it to some extent. They actually allowed quite a few rushing yards. They didn't do quite as good as they have in some of these other games rushing the ball, but some of these other games the teams have got out ahead and and just could do whatever they want to the Saints to where they don't need to run the ball. But yeah, the Bills they got off pretty well uh, for what they had 32 carries for 165 yards with a 5.2 average, but they had 2 touchdowns, one from James Cook and Josh Allen, and that was kind of one of my like extra kind of predictions or hot takes. I kind of felt it coming with James Cook going off for 100 yards and a touchdown, and he ended up having 22 carries, 100 for 117 yards with a 5.3 average and a touchdown and a long of 15. But they piled on there, and uh, Josh Allen kind of, he did his own kind of Cam Newton version of kind of turning into Superman at the end of the game, and he got loose there with a big 27-yard run where he broke like 3 or 4 tackles, like stiff arming Kool-Aid McKinstry, who kind of looked like trash in this game, to the ground, and then also had the goal line touchdown where he just walked in basically. So that was annoying. But yeah, it's nice seeing the Saints being able to run the ball because Alvin Kamara, he had 15 carries for 70 yards with 4.7 average, no touchdowns, but a long of 17. And then Kendra Miller had 11 carries for 65 yards, which was a 5.9 average and a touchdown. And that touchdown, that's what I was predicting last week, or was hoping for last week. I was predicting him to get more than 5 carries and a touchdown in the game against Seattle. He was just I was a game early on that, but Kendra Miller was good with his 11 carries for 65 yards, a 5.9 average, a touchdown, and 18-yard long. And that was what the touchdown came off of, was the 18-yard run where he's stiff arming and trucking guys and breaking tackles on his way to the end zone. Just so exciting, you watching. You got Alvin Kamara, who's kind of the elusive, contact balance type of running back, and then you got Kendra Miller, who doesn't know what it is to avoid a tackle or a hit. He's the one dishing it out. So that was fun. And there were moments in that game where it kind of felt like the old boom and zoom, and it looked like even at the end of the half and at points in that game that they were about, it felt kind of like the running game of the Saints was kind of taken over, and off of the plays where they scored touchdowns, that those were drives where the run game was looking good. But yeah, had a very kind of similar boom and zoom, Phil, kind of had a real nostalgic feeling of watching Alvin Kamara and Kendra Miller get off in this game. Just would have liked to have maybe a little more yards and a couple more touchdowns is what you're probably going to need from them to get one of these wins, especially when you're playing a Buffalo Bills team like that. And then we mentioned Spencer Rattler probably was more impressive running the ball and being really decisive with his runs. Like he would on some of those plays where he was running and taking off, like he would literally like look, check for his first read. If the first read was open, he was taking off, like very decisive. So Spencer Rattler was good in that regard because he had 6 carries for 49 yards, which is an 8.2 average, and he had a long of 15 and no touchdowns. So the running game was nice, but we kind of already after going over Spencer Rattler's numbers, we kind of already know that the no one really got off in the receiving game. But Rashid Shaheed had 5 targets for 4 catches for 47 yards, 11.8 average, and yeah, a long of 15. And that's the thing that I just didn't really understand in this game. Talking about Rashid Shaheed is that the Saints had really good field position a couple times in this game where what the Bills went for it on 4th down and didn't get it. Jonas Sanker got an interception, so the Saints were like starting a couple drives like near the 50-yard line, and I was just like, I thought I felt it coming. I thought I felt a deep shot to Rashid Shaheed, a deep ball to him coming, but it never came, which was so odd, which was so weird. Like like it just feels like the Saints would be just off of the Derek Carr deep balls to Rashid Shaheed. The Saints would probably be 2-2 if they had a healthy Derek Carr starting these first 4 games. So because if nothing else, Derek Carr, I know there's a lot of haters for him, but if nothing else, he had a great connection on the deep balls to Rashid Shaheed, and we hadn't really seen one of them all year from Spencer Rattler. Like he just doesn't take any shots. Like he has no deep game, no doesn't like press the ball down the field. Like he is just it's all just short and intermediate and dump off stuff. Like I need like what's the point of having like what 3, 4 wide receivers who coming out of the draft probably ran like 4 threes. Like what's the point of that if you're never going to try to take advantage of it, try to push the ball downfield? And so yeah, so that was frustrating. Like I Spencer Rattler, he's done good in regards to like protecting the ball and not throwing interceptions, even with him throwing it a bunch. Like he's had probably up there with the top quarterbacks with the amount of attempts, and the fact that he's only thrown 1 interception is kind of impressive. But there's a reason for it. It's because he never has no downfield passing game at all. And never putting it in harm's way really, except at the end of the game where you kind of have to, but not connecting on anything. So I in these next couple games, uh, if while I guess Spencer Rattler's still your starter, even though he's 0-10 as a starter, that's something that needs to be implemented. I don't know if it's because Kellen Moore and the coaching staff don't trust Spencer Rattler with those kind of throws, or they don't think he has the type of accuracy for those type of throws. I don't know, but I need to see it. I need some Rashid Shaheed deep balls in my life. All right. So then you had Jawan Johnson, who had just 3 catches for 28 yards, which was a 9.3 average for yeah, no touchdowns, a long of 17 off of 3 targets. Then you had Brandon Cooks had 3 catches off of 4 targets for 22 yards, which was a 7.3 average, no touchdowns, and a long of 9. And I want to talk about the Brandon Cooks touchdown where it looked like the Saints were about to take what they were going to take like a 2-3 point lead there in the fourth quarter with like 10 minutes left or so. And Brandon Cooks, you know, got to blame Spencer Rattler for that this play a little bit too, because like Brandon Cooks in the red zone, he came open like immediately, so he was like wide open and kind of like the Chris Olave throw. He just put way too much air under it. He just lobbed it to him, and it just hung up in the air too long, and then it was ended up being even with that, it was a low throw, and he just didn't get it to him, and he had Brandon Cooks sliding down to get it, and to me, I thought it was a catch. I thought he like held it against his knee and rolled over and then secured it. And what's funny about that is that last night in I want to say it was a Bengals corner intercepted, not the interception off of who the heck were the Bengals playing last night? They were playing Denver. Yeah, he intercepted Bo Nix on like almost the exact same play where it was like he was rolling over, catching an interception off of a ball that was kind of short to him, and he's like holding it against his knee, and you see like the tip of the ball like touched the ground, but it doesn't move, and he like rolled over and he caught it. And they called that it was like exactly the same play, and they called that a catch, an interception. So that had me really annoyed. And I'm watching the replays, and hell, I don't know what it was with the commentators or what, but they like first look replay of it, they were like, oh yeah, that's a drop, that's a drop, that's a drop. Like they were, man, it seemed like they were definitely against the Saints on that play. So yeah, so that was frustrating, not being actually able to get the lead back in a game for a while and put maybe a little bit of tension on the Buffalo Bills team and even maybe their fans about to possibly lose to one of the worst teams in the league. But we knew that they were gonna just even if that happened, they would just march right down the field, and it really wouldn't matter. But still, it would have been exciting. It would have kept a game that was entertaining. It would have made it even more entertaining. And then we had Chris Olave, who was 3 for 6. Uh, he had 3 catches off of 6 targets. 2 of them were drops. I'll admit maybe they weren't the greatest accuracy from Spencer Rattler, but they were still drops. They had a play on I think 2 plays on third down chances where one the throw kind of made him have to spin around to catch it, and so maybe it was bad accuracy there. But then the other one was like a sideline catch where he caught it and then he was juggling it and he dropped it out of bounds. So that's been like one of the highlights and monikers for the Saints 2025 season is drops. Like you know going into any of these games there's going to be a drop at a crucial moment that probably kind of over time and the buildup is going to lose you these games, and it has. And then Jack Stoll had 1 catch, and Alvin Kamara had 4 catches, uh, but only had 2 yards off of it. Like that's not gonna cut it, and that's not gonna get Spencer Rattler's average up. That's gonna hurt your average big time. And then obviously Spencer Rattler had 1 target that got picked off. Now to the defense here, your some of your top tacklers, Kool-Aid McKinstry had 7 total tackles, but he had no pass deflections or interceptions or anything. But he was getting cooked like all game, like missing tackles, and just looked bad. That first touchdown, I think it was the first touchdown by the Buffalo Bills player went for like 46 yards or something. Let's see. Went for like a 40, and there was like 3 or 4 tackles broken on the play. Khalil Secure had a 43-yard touchdown play, which it should have just been like a 10-yard pickup, but he ended up breaking like 3 or 4 tackles and took it to the house. So yeah, besides that, Kool-Aid McKinstry missed some tackles, a couple on a couple other plays, and there was a couple plays where it looked like he just was not hustling. not hustling like you'd want to see from a young player and a supposed to be your number one corner, but definitely doesn't look like one. But one thing that was nice to see was to see like the first half they had Isaac Yadam in there and he was looking not any better than Kool-Aid McKinstry, but something changed or maybe they finally got a call down that uh, if you play what you play Isaac Yadam for a third of the season as a starter, that you're going to lose your fourth round compensate compensatory pick because they he went to the bench in the second half and they put in the rookie who we were wanting to see more of anyway, especially after he forced that fumble in Seattle. But he had four solo tackles and but that was about it. Didn't and just had the four solo tackles. And then Demario Davis, your other leading tackler, had seven total tackles with five solo, tackle for loss. And but then the Saints were able to were able to get some sacks in this game. The sack game returned. They actually got quite a bit of pressure on Josh Allen at times. So Carl Granderson was back, had five total tackles with a sack, two tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit. Cam Jordan, resurgent, uh, had four total tackles, four solo, a sack, one tackle for loss, two quarterback hits. So they weren't just getting sacks; they were also getting just pressure, which that's kind of the first time we've seen this all year, where the Saints are getting actually like pressure. You know, besides getting a sack every now and again, or having a quarterback running a yard short of the line of scrimmage out of bounds, so it's registered as a sack. Like these were real sacks. Like the Saints were getting some decent pressure at times on Josh Allen, and then the other one. So they had three sacks in this game. Brian Bresee had one later in the game. He had three total tackles, two solo, one sack, tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. But the player that probably had the best game of the day was Jonas Sanker. Had five total tackles, four assists, an interception, three pass deflections, and man, he was just showing great range in this game, where he was breaking up passes on what Dalton Kincaid and Knox, their two tight ends, and he was just going up and leaping over these 6'4", 6'5" tight ends and either knocking it away or picking it off and just showing great range, the kind of range where they're like on one side of the field deep in the secondary and they come all the way over to the other side and you're getting like real sideline to sideline range from the rookie safety that the Saints have, who's in has has filled in due to injuries, and I don't think he'll be giving up that spot anytime soon. So that's you know, you got to take your positives where you can get them, and hopefully with Quincy Riley, Jonas Sanker, Kelvin Banks Jr. Like hopefully these guys continue to play, get starting time, and continue to get better. And heck, you get three or four of these picks out of your nine picks that you had in the draft. If those hit, man, it'd be looking pretty good. It'd be one of the better drafts that they've had in a while. And then on to special teams, you had Laleus Jones Jr. had five kickoff returns for 134 yards for 26.8 average with a long of 30. So he never broke one for too long, but I liked him fielding those kick returns more than I did Kendra Miller, which we saw like in the first three games. It looked like he just had a lot more juice and a lot more explosiveness that you think that you really need for any type of return, either being kick returns or punt returns, which Rashid Shaheed had just one punt return, which was returned for 10 yards. So it was nice, but not what the Saints needed a whole lot more in this game to be able to win it. And then Blake Groupie kind of having a little bit of a bounce back in this game, but he had two, he was 2 for 2 for field goals. So it's the first game all year where he hasn't missed a field goal, and he hit bang through a 54-yarder, so a long one as well. So hopefully that'll maybe help with some confidence, or maybe at least not get him benched for another a different kicker. And then he was 1 for 1 on extra points because they scored 2 touchdowns in this game, but they went for a 2-point conversion on one of them and didn't get it. And then Kyle Kroger, that was one of the positions I was most concerned with coming into this game, or coming into this season was punter. But man, he had one of the best games. That's probably the best game he's had this year. He was had 3 punts for 142 yards with a 47.3 average, 1 touchback, and 2 inside the 20, and a long of 49. So he had a nice game. So those are the most of the Saints stats, kind of a team stat. One of the things that was killing me in this game were the amount of penalties that were called actually on Buffalo, because that's what kind of kept the Saints in this game and kept it close. But they were calling all these penalties throughout the game, and man, just with how the Saints have played this year, that each time they call the penalty, it's hard not to think like, oh, it's on the Saints. So that made this a struggle. But heck, if nothing else, talking about looking like Kellen Moore had a little bit more swagger and a little bit more life on the sidelines than he did in the Seattle game. If nothing else, he was able to clean up the penalties, so that was nice. With the Saints only having 4 for 41 yards, like, you can feed me a whole lot more of that if the Saints can have some games where they keep it under 5 or less penalties. Like, I would be good with that. But yeah, hell, that's what kept the Saints in the game, was the lack of penalties for them and the amount that the Bills had. They had 11 for 55, which was such an odd thing for such a good team playing at home, for them to have penalties like that. Maybe it was just close to being kind of like an upset game. And they maybe, I don't know, maybe didn't take the Saints quite as seriously as they did, but obviously they took them seriously enough, being able to score 31 points on them. All right, so those are the majority of the stats. We just went over him for my MVP. My MVP that I picked just off of one player from the whole game, because I thought this was going to be a complete landslide, and really no one offensively or defensively I thought was going to look good in this game. So I thought maybe really the only hope that the Saints had of having a player actually look decent in this game was Blake Groupie. I picked Blake Groupie as my MVP, and I'll give him credit for having a bounce back, but I can't give it to him, because at that point in the game where the Saints went for that 2-point conversion, but didn't get it, they were wanting to cut it to 21 to 24 to make it a 3-point game, but they didn't get it. So then it ended up being what, 24 to 19. So it was a 5-point game at that point. So still, they were in that game. The defense was getting stops every now and again, got a couple sacks and got a turnover. So it felt like the Saints maybe had a chance still. I didn't think that they were actually going to, but it was exciting. It makes the game watchable, unlike last week against the Seahawks. But of course, Blake Groupie, there was only like 8 minutes left in the game, and he was about to get out of this game without making a big boneheaded play like he has all year, basically, either missing kicks or not getting kicks in the landing zone. And that's exactly what he did. The Saints cut the lead to 5, and he comes right out there and misses the landing zone. Just came up just short of the 20-yard line. He dropped it right at the 19, and that just basically gave, if nothing else, with where they put the ball, they put it at the Bills' 40-yard line. So, like, heck, in one play, if nothing else, they're in field goal range. So I can't give my MVP actually to Blake Rupe. We're really close to being able to do it, but of course he had to go and do a boneheaded thing after we thought maybe and hoping uh, that he maybe got some of his confidence back with hitting that 54-yarder. But I just don't know with Blake Rupe. He's a little too inconsistent. Has been a little too inconsistent this season, not just on field goals, but kickoffs as well. So my MVP for special teams, player of the game for special teams would be Kai Kroger. I thought he was great. That he had the best game, and he kept the Saints. Had a couple like dropped inside the 10, inside the 5, a couple of his punts. So he had the best game of the year of his season. And then if we're picking offensive and defensive player, I'm giving offense to Kendra Miller. Having that nostalgic feeling of boom and zoom at points in this game, and it looked like the Saints offense and the Saints running game really were taking over on a couple of those 2 touchdown drives. It looked like they were getting off, but him having that 65 yards rushing off 11 attempts, which was a 5.9 average, and that touchdown and that awesome 18-yard touchdown run where he broke like 3 or 4 tackles to get in the end zone was awesome. But couldn't give it to the quarterback, and just no receiver did enough. Didn't have it. Couldn't pick up enough yards, and weren't throwing it deep enough downfield for any receiver to possibly get that. But yeah, Kendra Miller called him out, called him, expected him kind of to be my MVP last week, but he gets it. He gets at least offensive player of the game this week. And then defense, that is pretty easy with Jonas Shanker showing his range throughout this game and showing how he completely come from one side of the secondary all the way to the other sideline and pick off passes from these 6'4", 6'5" tight ends, and looking like jump man going over these guys. Look like he's almost like half a foot, 6'6", almost maybe even a foot taller than these guys when he goes up to swat the ball and not turning the tight end, the receiver, and getting drawn for pass interference. Was very impressive. Feed me more games like that from Jonas Senker. Like he's probably the rangiest safety that the Saints have had since Marcus Williams. So that's pretty wild, and I like it. It's nice having a nice safety duo, him and Justin Reed out there. So those are your players of the games. We go into hot takes now. All right, on to hot takes now. So my first hot take was I was predicting, or at least hoping, that the Saints starting O-line wouldn't allow a sack in this game. And so we got Trevor Penning back, we got Talisi Fuaga back, and it was on like the first play of the game, I think. The Saints tried to run it and it got blown up in the backfield where Trevor Penning didn't block at all. So I was thinking like, oh man, this is going to be a rough day for Trevor Penning. But he ended up like settling in, and obviously they were moving people in the run game. So that was nice. But the starting offensive line, I think pretty early on one of the first 2 or 3 drives, Spencer Rattler gave up a sack, but it was in the second half where he got sacked the other 2 times. But yeah, we got to see the starting O-line, and it looked pretty impressive in regards to in the run game. But we only got to see it for one half because that was kind of one of my asterisks or stipulations to this. That is, if one of the Saints starting offensive linemen come out and then Spencer Rattler gets sacked, then that would hit. But he got sacked even before that could happen. But then at the end of the half, Cesar Ruiz ended up going down with a high ankle sprain, and so it was fun. It was fun for a half, I guess, to see the Saints full starting and expected offensive line play, and I was very impressed with the running game. And a lot of people hate on Cesar Ruiz and think he's the worst offensive lineman on the team, but I feel he gets kind of that same treatment that Andres Pete kind of got. Like he's solid, but when he looks bad, he looks bad. Like he's literally on plays where he looks bad. He's like blocking his own guy. He's blocking um, Eric McCoy on a play, or he's completely looks like a, a turnstile with the way he just completely doesn't even get hands on a defensive tackle trying to create pressure. But I thought I didn't think the run game or the offensive line fell off too much after he went out. I think Torricelli Simpkins came in, but I think it did a little bit. So yeah, people may hate Cesar Ruiz, but I think having all five in there was really nice, and I could see not seeing uh, Cesar Ruiz again this year because he's supposed to miss 4 to 6 weeks, and I mean, heck, if the Saints are what 0-10 after like 6 weeks, what would be the point of Cesar Ruiz coming back for that? So I don't know. Depends on what the Saints season kind of builds up to be, but I wouldn't see any reason for him to even come back. I'd rather play your backups and young players over that than rush him back from a high ankle sprain to play on a 0-10 team. So that hot take didn't hit. Wasn't really even close, honestly, because they took Spencer Rattler got sacked in the first half with the starting O line. But then my other hot take, which did hit, the Saints were able to get their first pick, their first interception of the season, and that goes hand in hand with your player of the game, Jonas Sanker, a rookie, your rookie third round pick. I think he was a third round pick, usually a third or fourth round pick. So hey, the Saints got their first interception of the year, and it came off of hopefully a high potential player in Jonas Sanker. So 1 out of 2 on those hot takes, and the James Cooks one was kind of an extra. So he did rush for 100 plus and a touchdown. So yeah, hot takes were not terrible. And then the pick and score for was I picked the Bills to win, obviously, and I picked it to be 47-10, like the last time the Saints had played in Buffalo, where they rushed for like 300 yards and like 3 touchdowns and had 20 consecutive run plays. But there were moments in this game where it looked like the Saints offense and the Saints running game was starting to get off and kind of looking boom and zoomish, where I felt nostalgic even for that game for a minute, even though they didn't have a huge lead and weren't absolutely mollywhopping the Bills in the game. But I felt some had some flashbacks there that felt kind of good. But 47, the Saints not losing to the Bills 47-10. I guess it's just not embarrassing because yeah, the 31-19 final of the game is kind of misleading because the game was close. A good but majority of the game, it was just a one-score game, or even a touchdown or a field goal could have possibly taken the lead in this game. But yeah, just kind of the ass end of the whole game, and Saints performance just kind of fell out after like the last 8-7 minutes of the game. So it's not got the pick right, but scores got quite a bit off. But we were just feeling kind of superstitious coming in this game, and the Bills got their first win at home against the Saints since like the 90s, which is wild. All right, so that kind of is your whole kind of matchup of the Saints 31-19 loss to the Buffalo Bills. At least it was enjoyable to watch. If nothing else, like even if the Saints go 0-17, if these games are at least enjoyable to watch and it doesn't feel like torture, like last week against the Seahawks to finish the 3 hour, 3.5 hour game, to where at least it feels like the quarters are actually moving, because it's actually something's happening. There's drama in the game. that's not just all Saints drama to where they're just getting whooped and having bad plays and getting penalties constantly called on them. So that was the Saints loss. So they're 0-4 now. Let's get into some injury reports here. So I guess we mentioned the Cesar Ruiz high ankle sprain. So we know about that. So that's 4 to 6 weeks where he got rolled up on a pretty decent. I think it was a Kendra Miller run on I think one of their scoring drives where they ended up capping it off. I think it actually was on the drive which ended in a Chris Olave interception, but that where he got rolled up on was after like a good Kendra Miller run. So of course, Saints can't have anything nice. Saints fans, who dats can't have anything nice. It was nice for one half having a five man starting offensive line was really nice. So we know about Cesar Ruiz. I'm sure he'll pop up on the injury report, or even before he pops up on the injury report, with a projected 4 to 6 week uh, time missed. He's definitely a candidate for IR, injured reserve. Uh, but the positive, we have a little bit of positive injury news here, and injury maybe hope, and maybe getting some reinforcements back possibly. But I'm just not 100% sure when I actually think both of these guys are coming back. And I'm talking about your two tight ends and Taysom Hill, more of your Swiss Army knife, and then Foster Moreau are actually we're practicing or will be back at practice this week, which is really surprising to me because Taysom Hill, he was hurt December 1st, ACL injury December 1st, had to have surgery. It was against the Los Angeles Rams, I think, and then Foster Moreau, literally like the last play of the game, last drive play of the game, got hurt on what I was a touchdown catch where he blew his knee out, and then so that would have been like in January on almost. But now that they're back practicing with the team, they have a 21-day activation period to start. If they don't start them before that, then they're on season IR, and both of their seasons are done. So I would be surprised and wouldn't expect either Taysom or Hill or Foster Moreau to play this week against the New York Giants. I would say with this 21-day activation period, it'll probably come on like the 20th day, or I would think. It'd have to either be the 20th or like the 14th day. Like I don't see it being for this Giants game. And these got two really like different players here in Taysom Hill and Foster Monroe. Like, yeah, they're listed as tight ends, but they're really different players. But then it's the age as well, because Taysom Hill's 35 years old and Foster Monroe's just still kind of a young player, just 28 years old. And Foster Monroe's injury happened later in the season, like at the end of the season. So if one of these guys comes back, I would probably expect it to be Taysom Hill, and I could see where Foster Moreau, it's this 21-day period. So if the Saints are what 0-7, 0-8, I wouldn't see any reason for Foster Moreau to come back because he's still kind of a young player. He still has a career ahead of him, But with Taysom Hill, hell, being 35 years old, coming off of a knee injury, this probably be his last hurrah. Anyways, may only have one, maybe if Saints fans and Hoodats are lucky, may get 2 seasons out of him, and it's not even a full season with him having to fight through injury to come back this year, anyways. But hey, it's still exciting with the negative that we got from Cesar Ruiz. What maybe some people think that's a positive. They maybe think Torricelli Simpkins or Dylan Raduns is just as good or maybe even better. But yeah, that's some positive. I would love to see Taysom Hill back in this game because we're getting a lot of quarterback runs and direct snap runs. Got a couple of them, not a lot of them, from Spencer Rattler in this game. Like those are plays that Spencer Rattler is not able to score on, but hopefully a healthy or maybe at least 80% Taysom Hill can pound some of those plays into the end zone and get us some points where it's just kind of seems not like the smartest idea running your quarterback on those direct snaps on the goal line when he's not really like he's kind of fast, but he's not really a powerful guy, and he's not big either, like Taysom Hill. So would love to see some of those plays redirected for touches for Taysom Hill. But anyway, so we have the New York Giants coming up a noon noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern time home game for the Saints. But we'll get more into that uh, later in the week, either Thursday or Friday. But we'll get into that more. I'm sure more injury news and notes will come out leading into that game. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?